to him. Whitlow rolling right on a keeper. Up across the 15. Cuts left at the 20. On the room at the 30. Headed to the near sideline. One man to beat. Makes the move at midfield. Coming to the near side at the 30. He's at the 20. He's at the 10. 5. Touchdown, Kentucky.
Here we are, another Wednesday, another episode of Believe in Kentucky. Welcome in, everybody, alongside Aaron Gershon from the Cat's Paws. My name is Vinny Hardy, AG, fresh from the ATL, man.
That was a fun trip. I think Kentucky fans needed that, to say the least. I mean, it had been 5 years since they've won in the Champions Classic, and they had the big win over North Carolina last season, so you got to give Cal and that team credit for doing it. But just too many of these big non-conference games that they've lost in recent years. I mean, whether it's the Champions Classic, CBS outside of last year, I mean, I think they'd lost, I want to say, 3 in a row prior to last year, losing a lot of those Big 12 SEC challenges. I know they beat Miami last year, but in the first ACC challenge, but Miami was obviously, I think they ended up finishing 15th in that league. So not a very impressive win, to say the least. So I think Kentucky needed that moment. And for Mark Pope to go in year one and get it done with, look, we'll get into all the small things, but Kentucky was outmanned, outgunned. Like, Duke is the more talented team, but Kentucky's experience won out. The adjustments Mark Pope made at halftime won out, and they came back and they finished that thing off, and they got a humongous win for both this roster and for this fan base. And it was a magical night. It really was. Kentucky, like I said, the fan base just needed it. It was so important. If they had lost, the sky wasn't falling by any means, but to get that win, and now you put yourself in position, you should be able to go into the month of December undefeated. I mean, it's a pretty damn good start. I can't remember the last November. They came out of November with only without a loss. It's been a long time. So super impressive. I mean, I don't think history will repeat itself, but the last time they won the Champions Classic, 2 games later, they lost to Evansville. So there hasn't really been this feel good. You already have the new coaching staff, whole new roster, but haven't felt this good this early about a Kentucky team in quite some time.
I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, the last time they even started 3-0 was like 2016-17. So
that definitely would add up.
Fox and Monk and Bam and all those guys.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, because they obviously the what was the team? The hero team got blitzed by Duke. Then next year they beat Michigan State, but they lost to Evansville in the third game. And then obviously the COVID year they were like 1-2. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, haven't been 3-0 in a while at a place like Kentucky, and again, it was a game of Kentucky just made the adjustments, and it's just something that we haven't seen these last 4 years, 5 years, the last 5 years of the Cal era, were those halftime adjustments. It felt like Kentucky, they fixed their ball screen defense. They started bringing more pressure when they realized that Duke were starting to run on tired legs. They just made adjustments, and then, they're going to be a team that shoots a ton of threes. We know that. But when when Duke started to do a really good job of taking away the open looks, and the open looks started falling, they played through Otega Owe and Andrew Carr, because those are the two guys that can go down and get you a bucket. And those guys scored 12 of their last 13 points. So I thought it was just a masterclass by Mark Pope. I thought, Duke missed some shots, so you were the beneficiary of that. But you also you didn't rebound well in the first half, and you rebounded much better in the second half. You were able to close those possessions where Duke missed some open looks. So just so much to be impressed with and like from this one.
Yeah, and just times where it looked like they were a little wobbly, in trouble.
Yeah.
They were able to, got down 9, down 10. They were able to shake it off, start the second half down 9, and before you know it, they scored 5 quick points and cut it to 4. It's 46-42.
Yeah, and then they got it back to 9, Duke did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to – you probably got it notated. I was trying to look back and find it because, Amari Williams, you get a turnover, you get a a dime. You kind of all over the place with him bringing the ball up the court. And he made a little floater, 6-8 foot floater that absolutely died on the back of the rim and fell in. And at that point, they had been a little while since they had scored. And as ugly as it was, they needed those 2 points just to kind of stay in it. And I was like, "Ooh, thank you, Amari." It's not gonna be aesthetically pleasing at all, but we'll take it because it was one of those getting a little dicey again. And that was, people might not think about it. I thought that was a huge bucket at the time. Brendan Garrison played some huge minutes.
Oh, yeah. He made some big plays, man. He had the jumper, the deep jumper that was almost a 3. I was like, oh, no, that's one of those. No. Okay, nice. Not a shot you probably want from him, but in this offense, they're going to open it up and let him do it. And, he was able to hit that. And I think, I'm looking at it right here. He scored 6 straight of Kentucky's points. Garrison hit a jumper, then a Cooper Flag jumper, and then he answered with a jumper and a layup, and that layup cut it to 2 at the time. So, he gave him some really valuable minutes off the bench. And look, Kentucky, that's the one thing they're going to have an advantage over, even against teams like Duke that probably have more talent. They're going to play 9. I think it's going to end up being 9 deep. I think it's going to be a 9-man rotation. I don't think you're going to see Colin Chandler in there too much unless, that's the freshman they have the most trust in right now, clearly. But, he's still – he was out of basketball for 2 years. He's got a ways to go. So I think that you're going to see a 9-man rotation most of the year. And look, last night, no one played more than 31 minutes. 30 minutes for Carr. So 2 guys, 31 for Oweh, 30 for Carr. So only 2 guys that played 30 minutes. That means you're going to have a lot of fresh legs. You're not going to have a lot of fatigue, and you have a lot of different guys that you can trust to go out there and get the job done. And Duke, obviously, look, uber talented. I think this Duke team is going to be, we've seen some Kentucky teams that were really young struggle the last couple of years. This Duke team, it's a little different. Like Cooper Flag is 1-1 in this year's draft. Knuppel is a bucket getter. I know he had a rough shooting night last night. He'll be fine. Is it Malak, the 7'2" center? I mean, Kentucky, thank God for their sake, he had the cramps because he was not the same guy. There was one layup that Andrew Carr had where he had a wide open layup or dunk, and he kind of did a pump fake because he was looking for Malak. And I think he either got fouled or got blocked out of bounds, and Kentucky got it back. But, they're uber talented, but Sion James went down at one point. Malak was dealing with the cramps, and they really only had 6 to 7 guys they trusted. And, their minutes, you look at theirs, Knuppel played 37, Proctor played 36, Flag played 32. Kentucky only had 2 guys that hit 30, and then the next was Jackson Robinson, who was awful last night offensively, but he gave 27, made some nice defensive plays in the second half to help them finish this one off. He actually had 2 blocks. So, it was just a team effort, and that's what's really cool to see. I mean, with going back to Jackson Robinson only scoring 1 point, not having a field goal. If last year, if any of Aaron Bradshaw, if any of Reed Shepherd, Rob Dillingham, or Antonio Reeves, if any of them had an off night, it was a loss, like automatic loss. Antonio, luckily for them, didn't have many off nights, so really it became if Reed and Rob had an off night, it was a loss, and we saw that in the NCAA tournament and the SEC tournament, and a couple games down in the regular season. But even look, they lost to Kansas State in the NCAA tournament 2 years ago because Antonio Reeves won 1 for 10. They couldn't survive. This year, you have Jackson Robinson do this against Duke, 0 for 4 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3, 1 for 3 from the free. He couldn't even hit free throws. Didn't matter because Andrew Carr and Otega always stepped up. And that's what's so cool about this win, right? Like, they didn't play great, but their depth and their grittiness and the adjustments they made was enough to get it done. And there are going to be games where they don't play great and they lose. That they're not going 31-0, but just so many good signs and so many good things to take from this.
You mentioned Malak. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right.
Yeah, I think we have it right.
You know, Amari Williams is a grown man, and he looks so small out there.
Oh, yeah, that kid's massive.
And Amari is banging with him, and he's having to pump fake before he can get his shot off. He got the foul where he got knocked back, and he threw it up and made it and got a and one. His floater, yeah, and then I forget his other field goal, but he made 3 shots. But that dude, the block he got, which I don't know, maybe it was goaltend, maybe it wasn't, where he just smacked it. He like smacked it to Athens. One of those intimidating.
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna let y'all know I'm in the paint kind of blocks. Here I am. and he's just the fact that, I mean, Amari's big, he's thick, he's full grown, been in Drexel for however many years before he came here. And for him to look that small, I was like, man, that is, ooh. But like you said, the cramps, you don't wish pain on anybody, but that kind of gave Kentucky a little bit of a break. And Duke didn't shoot well, but Kentucky just hung around. Kentucky hung around and kept clawing and scratching and keeping themselves in the game too when they had to have plays. Garrison, Carr went to work. After kind of a rough start in the first half defensively, then he's getting buckets, big buckets down the stretch. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Andrew Carr's played Duke before. He's not, he's familiar with them. He's played them who knows how many times here at Wake Forest. And down the stretch, he came up huge for Kentucky when they needed it.
No doubt about it. And I just can't get over the fact that they didn't, like, you watched them and it wasn't like they played that well.
Yeah.
Like they did good things, and like you said, like some guys like Brandon Garrett, like guys stepping up and making big plays, but just incredible. And I mean, look, they still, like you said, I mean, the paint with Amari and Marlock couldn't be more accurate. I mean, still points in the paint was 46 to 26.
Yeah.
So there's things to work on, but also you look at, how about the bench? Kentucky was 25 to 6. Outscoring them off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think, what was Kentucky's turnovers? 10, so that's probably their season high, but they, 17 assists, not a bad ratio there. Just, little things in the box score, little things on the eye test, and some of the adjustments they made that were enough to beat. Again, this Duke team, like, they're real. Now that, like, no Kentucky fans, they all hate Duke. They're not going to want to admit it. This Duke team is really, really good. They're going to be right there. They could be in the Final Four. They could be in the national championship game. They could win the whole thing. That's how talented they are. But for Kentucky to go out there in that environment and, again, play well but not their best, but just do some little things right to push them over the top, just impressive. And, again, the two guys for me, and I think everyone, Andrew Carr and Otega Owe, being able to, they both had 2 for 3 nights from 3, but when the game mattered and they realized they weren't getting those threes, they were able to go in the paint and get buckets. I mean, Carr went right down Marlock's throat when I thought Mark Pope made a brilliant move when Amari, like you were saying, was struggling with him, and he decided, screw it, we need offense, let's go small. And he put Andrew at the 5, and great move there. And I can't get over the fact that he went for the steal in that spot. Like, that takes guts. That takes guts, because there are two things that can go terribly wrong, right? I know he was the help there. I know Andrew Carr was guarding him, but you go for the steal and you left your man, you're leaving someone open, or you get blown by, or you foul.
Mm-hmm.
Neither happened. He was able to grab the ball, take it all the way down the length of the court, and draw the foul. So that was just gutsy. And then the cross-court pass, like, this team, they play with guts. Like, they are not afraid. And I think a big part of that is the experience factor. But
yeah,
I think the head coach has a lot to do with that as well.
Because at the beginning, they hit their first 5 threes, and this is pretty, and the ball's moving, and it's flowing, and it's great. It's what everybody's kind of been hearing about this offense, and we're just wondering now. Okay, we saw it against Minnesota, Mankato. We saw it against Wright State. We saw it against Bucknell, and I'm forgetting the other exhibition before that. Kentucky Wesleyan, yeah. So we saw it, against lesser opponents, and you just kind of come at them in waves and overwhelm them. So now you hit your first 5 against Duke. Oh, this offense just translates to against a good team the same way, and then it doesn't. And then they still, now they've proved that they had to roll up their sleeves and get in the mud and still find a way to win the game. And they were able to do that too. So playing different kinds of ways, gritty, just fighting, we heard fight a lot. I'm not, trying to take shots. We heard fight a lot last year and the year before, but it wasn't.
Fight. They did fight.
It was just being said, but there wasn't really.
They were empty words.
A journey. Yes. It wasn't really anything to follow up with that, and so it was kind of.
No, you didn't feel the passion.
Yeah.
And that's more on the head coach. I think the players cared. Reed Shepherd obviously put it all on the line. Rob Dillingham, most nights put it all on the line. Antonio Reeves was unbelievable last year, but we know the coach's motivation wasn't all the way there, and that is not the case with Mark Pope. I mean, that guy is all about everything Kentucky. He's a Kentucky guru, and you saw it just the way he was celebrating and interacting with the fans after, even before the game. I mean, this guy lives, breathes, drinks everything Kentucky basketball. That's just, besides his family, there's nothing out there that he cares about more. So, again, I just could not have been more impressed with this win. And that, I guess that's also a good thing, too, and that, they didn't even play their best, which means you would think, because it's only November 13th, the best has yet to come.
Yeah. And they're all experienced, but not playing together. I said it earlier.
Yeah.
Come first of the year, middle of conference play, for lack of a better comparison, you think NBA, nobody had better chemistry than Stockton and Malone. They knew where each other were, the pick and roll.
Right.
So
they are so cohesive.
The chemistry for Kentucky, if it's this good now, imagine they just continue playing together. How much more gelling that they can do, which that's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's just gonna get better and better. And it's already pretty damn good. It's super impressive. I mean, look, and you go back to the Bucknell game, and Kirk Carisa's throwing these no-look passes, and no one's surprised. Like, Kobe Bray is there every time and in the right spot to catch and shoot. So, yeah, it's only going to continue to get better. Now they kind of go through a slog of weaker opponents, but there's still areas. I mean, this team, before they get, that huge week to start December with Clemson and Gonzaga, I mean, they still got the offensive rebounding is still, it was great against Bucknell. It wasn't good in the 2 preseason games, wasn't good in the first game, and 9 last night. You're playing Duke, so you draw it up to Duke a little bit, but you want. Mark Pope said he needs to get it. I think his number was 10. They needed to have at least 10. So you want to see that number get over that, these next few games, and kind of feel steady there. Some things with the ball screen defense, so you don't have that be a problem in the first half. But there's just so much to like and be excited about. And, now you just look for these 4 games here, this 4-game stretch of Lipscomb, Jackson State, Western Kentucky, and Georgia State to build on all this.
Yeah, that's it. And, we mentioned already that, Jackson Robinson struggled.
Yeah, you need to get him going during the streak.
Yeah. You hope that it's kind of a one-off for him. We saw what he had done up to this point, but him being the most familiar with this system, the most comfortable,
Yeah.
kind of showing everybody else what to do and how this guy operates, and how Pope thinks, and as they get acclimated, you add him to the mix. Guy that's been in the SEC before as well. You add that, if and I'm not saying panic about what we saw last night, but if you add him at where we think he should be, or where he thinks he should be, he's the one. Andy Katz or Norlander put out their top 10, 15 wing players. He was ranked 8th, and he was mad that he was ranked there. So if you keep that same energy and, think that you've been slighted as being one of the top wing players in the country, then you add that to what we saw last night. The ceiling for this team is really
very high. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, they need to get Jax going. There's no question about it. I still think he's the player with the most upside on this entire roster. I don't know if he's their best player. I don't think they necessarily have a best player, but he's the guy that has the best chance to be a first-round draft pick. He's the guy that can, if things are really going right, he can be the one that can go get you a bucket when you need it, which, last night it was Andrew Carr, but I don't know if you necessarily want that to be a big. I think you probably prefer it to come from a guard who's more of a ball handler, and I think he'll get it going. I'm not too worried about it yet. The biggest thing I was worried about with Robinson, honestly, wasn't you're going to have a bad shooting night. That it is what it is. But some of the body language. There was a video, I think, of him going to halftime with his hands on his head, kind of in the surrender cobra position. There have been other times I've noticed, like when he's not playing as much, his body language kind of tinkers a little bit. He doesn't seem too thrilled, and he's got to clean that up. I think that's something, I'm sure that's something Mark Pope notices and the staff notices, and they're probably on him about behind closed doors. But at the end of the day, it's November 13th. There's a lot of time to clean things up, and this is a great 4-game stretch to get it going.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, it was just a cleansing experience, or especially for the fans in the building in Atlanta last night.
It was refreshing, man. I mean, they just haven't. There haven't been many of those. Like that's their first Champions Classic win since Tyrese Maxey went nuclear against Michigan State. It's their first win over Duke. What, the Jamal Murray team?
I think so. Yeah.
Yes. So
2 since 2015, which they don't play every year.
They play every 3, and then the Champions Classic only started in like 2012 or 13. So, I mean, they've only beat Duke since Jack Givens like 3 times or something. So
Kentucky wins in the tournament, except for Leitner, but Kentucky's got the edge in the tournament. But recently in the regular season, it was going the Duke's way.
I mean, they got their ass kicked in 2018.
Zion still dunking on
Zion, RJ, and Reddish. So, and this team from a talent perspective is as close to them as they've had at Duke. I mean, with this freshman big 3 they have, and Flag, Knuppel, and Marlock. So awesome victory, and hopefully they'll continue to build on it. And again, we won't get to see them play this high level opponent for a few games, but there's a lot of excitement already, I think, for the Clemson and the Gonzaga game and the Louisville game, Ohio State, big month in December before SEC play.
Which Flag was as good as advertised.
He was awesome. I know he had the 2 turnovers at the end, but 17 years old,
right?
They'll figure it out, and he was awesome. He was as advertised, like you said.
Yeah. So I just think, from Maine, I just wonder. Those battles in the driveway. You got a twin brother that's going to Maine, and you're going to Duke. So that's, I don't know if how that relationship is. Like, man, my twin brother's going to Duke, and I'm staying home going to Maine. As far as that goes, but it's just it is what it is. They're twins, but the talent level is clearly different. Which Steph Curry goes to Davidson. And Seth ends up playing at Duke for a time. So that's, but then look how the NBA careers are going. So you just never know.
Yeah, no, you just never know, like you said, and I'm very curious to see where these two teams, like what this matchup hypothetically would look like in March. Just see where they're at, because the Duke's best basketball is in front of them, and it's November. I think Kentucky's is as well.
Mm-hmm. The thing about it, Duke might not get any deeper, So there's that, unless they get some guys ready. But they don't, and they're already kind of worn down towards the second half last night. So, reminiscent of '98 when Tubby famously would not call a timeout. Coach K could not adjust.
Yeah,
similar situation last night. I've been saying it. Mark Pope is gonna play your depth, use your depth, and hopefully that continues. How deep will his rotation go throughout the season? If Chandler comes along, which I know he's been out for a couple of years, you add him to the mix. They threw him out there last night, and I was just if he was just taking a couple dribbles, I was like, he was jab stepping and wasn't nothing happening. I'm like, just try to take out the dribble and see what happens. But maybe the moment was too big, and try him again later. You got a few games now with lesser opponents.
Yes,
to kind of get in the lab, and he's going to experiment, and he's going to compile data, because he's going. If he can get some guys ready and get some things worked out against Lipscomb and all these other teams coming up, it's a perfect time to do that before you play Clemson and Gonzaga.
Yep. So. Yeah, that's what these 4 games are going to be about. That's just going to be building off this one, cleaning some of the issues up, and getting, like you said, guys like Colin Chandler, get Jackson Robinson going first and foremost. But get Colin Chandler more comfortable. Hopefully, even the 2 Kentucky kids, get some action, and Trentno and Travis Perry. But they'll, there's a lot of depth on this team, which is, again, only 2 guys. That just blows my mind, where you're able to beat Duke with only 2 guys playing 30 minutes. Like that's pretty good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Brea coming in with his 21 minutes. Just nuclear energy, man. He's throwing up 40-foot shots.
Oh yeah, he had the air ball, but yeah, he just draws so much attention. You have to send. You can't leave him open. He's catch and shoot wise, probably the best 3-point shooter in the country. So he's an absolute threat. He's perfect for this scheme. And what I've really liked from Kobe too is he's done a little more than just hit threes. I mean, last night he had 5 rebounds and 2 assists and a block. Like that's pretty good. I want to say he had 6 rebounds in one of the first 2 regular season games. He had like 3 or 4 assists in one of those games. So he was able to get in the paint and score a little bit in one of those games. So if he can be more than a kind of a, for lack of better terms, one-trick pony, that adds a lot of value.
And I said Brea, I meant Creaser coming in.
Creaser, yeah. Oh, well, him too.
He shot like, but, he was shooting from Macon. He came in.
How about he had 12 assists against he had 12 assists against Bucknell, and he had 0 last night. So he's something else. He's fun. Great personality, just fun.
Yeah, sure was. Almanor hit his corner 3, which you can about book him for 1 every time he gets in there. He only played like 9 or 10 minutes, but it's a lot of ways he can go, a lot of combinations he can still tinker around with. So we'll see all of that over the next few weeks for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll see a bunch of it, and it's again, such an exciting product, and a lot of reason to have optimism if you're the fan base, probably the most in quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So if we slide to football, we had a bye week. Murray State coming up, and it's the most noteworthy thing getting back to a normal game week when you have your Monday presser and your call-in show, which, Big Dog did the call-in show, but Stoops was there for the Monday presser, and he was asked about, is he going to retire at the end of the season, I think is how it was worded. It wasn't just leave or step away. I think he was going to retire at the end or step away. And he said there's zero chance that he was doing that. So a lot of chatter out there about it, as we know. But your thoughts on that nugget?
Yeah, I mean, look, if that question was ever going to be asked, am I surprised that was the answer? No, absolutely not. But I think a couple things. One, you can't take these people at their word. I mean, do I think Mark Stoops will be the head coach of Kentucky next year? Probably, yes. I would say I'm about 80 to 90% confident in that. But you just never know. You just don't. I mean, we saw it. Look, Mitch Barnhart and John Calipari were having a State of the Union on BBN tonight, and that lasted all but a week. So Nick Saban said he was never going back to college. He said it's just these coaches say what's on their mind at the time. They answer the question, and so look, is it possible that Mark Stoops retires? Still, in my opinion, yes. But I've always said it. I've said it on here. Like, the most likely outcome is he's back next season, and that just means. I mean, this, like we've been talking about, man, this month of December it's huge. Like, might be the biggest month in his tenure because they have to get it right. They have to get it right. I think they really just need to, they have to hit on a much higher clip in the portal. I know obviously early in his tenure, they got it going before most people did with transfers, right? Whether it was Wandell, Will Levis, Kelvin Joseph, Dare Rosenthal, Jaquez Jones, like they had a lot of early hits, but the last couple of years, those hits haven't been there. A couple guys Dumas Johnson's had a great year. Ray Davis obviously was phenomenal. So, hasn't been all bad in the portal, but the offensive linemen, which look, it's really hard to get good offensive linemen in the portal. A lot of the times, like, they're in the portal for a reason. But they haven't hit on many, if any, of those. They haven't really, just trench-wise, they haven't gotten enough to be better, through the portal. And he's got, I want to pull it up in front of me here. Like, he has so many holes to fill. And I know, they give him credit. The freshman signing class they've coming in. I know they had a 3-star decommit today, but it's a really good class despite all the crap that's gone on this season. There's a lot to like there. I think they're ranked in the top 23 or top 25. Number 21, there it is. Rankings wise, high school class, so they're going to have a nice freshman class to come in, but it's going to come down to the transfer portal if they're able to, because they're not in a position where, if a new coach came in here, there'd be an understanding next year was probably going to be a bit of a rebuild. Mm-hmm. They're not going to have that. They're not going to have the benefit of that at all. Like, if Mark Stoops is back, it's either you turn this thing around or you don't. Like, that's going to be it. And he's going to go out in this cycle, and on defense, they're losing 9 players off their 2 deep, including Trayvon Ripko, starter, Octavius Oxendine, starter, D-Jack, starter, Jamin Dumas Johnson, starter, Zion Chogia, starter, and 99% chance they also lose Deion Walker, starter, Maxwell Harrison, starter. Like, woof. Like, you're going to look for some young guys to fill some of those holes, but most of that you're going to have to rebuild through the portal. And then offensive line, you're losing 3 starting offensive linemen, Eli, Marcus Cox, Gerald Mincy, and you're losing your starting running back in Demi Sumar Carnbay. And, they're losing a kicker who hasn't missed this year. So, like, they're just that's a lot, man. That's a lot to overcome when you're this year. Those are some really good players, and it wasn't necessarily resulting in winning this year anyway. It's going to be a really, really wild month of December. And if he wants to be back, that's great. But man, does he have his hands full? And the fan base has every single right to be skeptical and be in wait and see mode with just how confident they're going to be that they can turn this thing around.
Even in the call-in show Monday, Big Dog said something to the same thing you said, and he said the development has kind of hurt us a little bit from the standpoint of you have a guy that he's not ready to play, but yet he wants to hit the portal and go somewhere where you can play right away. He said, well, why not stay here and get yourself ready to play? But you said a week or two ago talking about how the recruit and develop needs to be tweaked, overhauled, updated, whatever you want to call it. And then for him to say, we've kind of been hurt in some development areas. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, it's not good. It's just not good. There's a lot of red flags going on. I don't know exactly. I've been having trouble getting to the bottom of how obviously the portal hits and not being able to build the same way all hurts, but why is it taking such a drastic step back this year? It's it's hard to explain, but that was a concerning comment. And again, I still like I know Mark Stoops likes to say he's what is it? I don't know what it is. Something and then not defeated. But you listen to him.
Disappointed.
There it is.
Yeah.
But you listen to him talk, man, he sounds as defeated as I could remember. So, we'll see. Again, this month of December, there are still 3 games to play. You want to see – I think it's really important, obviously, to get young guys in this weekend, but just honestly let young guys in the last 3 weeks go make some plays and try to have some things to make the fan base have any sort of hope for next year. But like this – it's all going to come down to December. If Mark Stoops is deciding to come back, there's no, and nor should there be any patience going into next year. The fan base is going to go in on edge. They're going to go in pessimistic, and I can't blame them. So, I know Mark Stoops will be up to the challenge. I just don't know if they'll be able to get it done.
If Brock Vandagriff does not play Saturday, how are the QB reps divvied between Gavin and Cutter, in your opinion?
I'm starting to get I was hearing today it sounds like Brock is going to be able to go. So I think if Brock goes, I think he starts and hopefully get a big lead and you can get it as quickly as possible. I think if Brock plays, the goal would be to get it right to Cutter. If Brock is out, I would think Gavin starts and it would be the same thing, get it to Cutter. Like, I really think they want to play Cutter Bully as much as humanly possible in this game. And look, Murray State is not just a bad FCS opponent. I mean, yes, they're 1-9, and they do play in a good league, like terrible. But there are 123 teams in the FCS. Their defense ranks 122nd, and they're giving up 45 points a game. So hopefully you can, with the starters, jump out big early and then get kids playing time. It's really like they haven't had these really less. I guess they against Ohio they ended up, the lead wasn't crazy, but they were up enough where they were able to get some young guys playing time. But like you go back to Youngstown State a couple of years ago, you go back to Miami, the season opener that year. Obviously, kind of got screwed out of it this year against Southern Miss. Like. Yeah. They haven't had these monster blowouts where they've just gotten to get these freshmen valuable clock, like since they beat up on like New Mexico State, the Will Levis year. So like they really need to get a huge lead and get some kids some playing time. And I think it'll actually happen just because how bad Murray State is. And so I do think at the end of the day, what will happen is Brock Vandagriff will play probably the majority of the first half. And then it'll be Cutter Bully show the rest of the way. And again, if Brock is out, I think then same idea, but Gavin being the one who plays most of the first half.
Yeah. So you're right, man. It's up in the air times, man. On the field and off.
Yeah, it's a weird. There's weird things going on in there. nothing I can report on or say, but there's some weird vibes that we haven't really felt this program have under Mark Stoops. It's always kind of just been a put your head down and work type of program, not really complain. And ever since NIL and the portal started, like at least the portal, like as we know it now, not the portal, like the early transferring that Kentucky did well, cleaning up, getting some guys in, like something's been amiss, and Kentucky hasn't adjusted as well as some other schools have. And that's why you've seen them get passed in the SEC. But if they have a really good offseason, they could undo a lot of that. I think, you saw Mark Stoops he didn't point them out directly, but I could tell you, I think he was talking about Vanderbilt and probably Missouri and probably South Carolina in his press conference, where you can turn it around really quickly. It doesn't take as long anymore with this portal if you do it right and you have the buy-in financially. But the problem is, just how eager people are going to be to donate to a program that is coming off, they had the 2 7 and 6s when they were supposed to be better than that. And then they went, this year, my guess is they finished 5 and I'd say probably either 4 and 8 or 5 and 7, probably 4 and 8. Like, are they really going to be bought in and ready to spend? Stoops said it should motivate to spend, and I get what he's saying with that. I just don't think that's necessarily going to be the reality. So, his back's against the wall for the first time here, probably since like 2016. So we'll see how he handles it.
We just saw the men's basketball team kind of had that measuring stick of, what do we have, where we at, where do we stack up. So the women get to do the same thing this weekend when they play Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenny Brooks got a huge commitment today from Kaylin Carroll, number 15 in the ESPN Women's 100. She committed to Kentucky today. So the recruiting is rolling. They're already blowing out teams, that they should be blowing out, and all that size is still something that we haven't seen a Kentucky women's team have. Claire Silver is 6'7", Claire Strack is 6'5", and you got 6'3", and just huge front lines and big lineups. So they'll get a test now with Louisville coming to town. And you want to beat the Cards in everything all across the board. So be Coach Brooks's first dip into the rivalry with the Cards this weekend, and hopefully he can start 1-0 against Louisville.
Yeah, no, that'll be a lot of fun. What is it, Saturday night, I believe? Like you said, measuring stick, chance to prove himself early, and he's got a rolling, man. I mean, getting a 5-star. How many 5 is like their second in history?
Was like Ryan Howard the other one or something?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, just he's kicking butt. I mean, obviously this team right away ready to compete with what he was able to do in the portal, come in ranked, and they've looked the part against their there's 3 early non-con games. They have a lot of size. We haven't seen much of that.
No.
So super, super, super impressive start to the year. Georgia Amore, obviously, is the superstar on this roster. Clara Strack, another transfer from Va-Tech. She's played out of her mind, too. So really, really impressive stuff going on over on that side of campus. And I think, hopefully, given that the football game, well, 1, it's not a premier game, and 2, it's early in the day. I think it's a 6:30 tip over there at Memorial. Hopefully, they'll have a really good atmosphere. And kind of rally around that program. I mean, I know it's been tough, for women's basketball. The last couple of years of LZ, they really, really struggled, and the fan support wasn't quite there. And that's just, it is what it is. But I think if they can live up to what they're capable of, and as Kenny Brooks continues to do this program, you can see the atmosphere. You see at Louisville, you see at South Carolina, LSU. And Baylor, when they had it rolling, like you can have that here in Lexington, no doubt. You see it on baseball, right? You see that baseball where that program started getting it rolling, and the fans were coming out in numbers. I mean, the atmospheres, not only during the NCAA tournament, but in the SEC regular season against Tennessee and Arkansas, you had some sellout crowds and some records. Like you're going to see that over at Memorial too, especially with the renovations and it being a more comfortable, fan-friendly space. So really cool stuff going on over there for that program, and obviously wish them the best going into a big one Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of good stuff, and a nice little window to, if you want to do the football, women's basketball, double, they're spaced out where you can do it. So good stuff. And congrats to Coach Brooks. And like you said, that size is just something we have not seen. I was talking to Macy Morris before the season started, and she remembers being on the block trying to bang against Asia from South Carolina. I mean, she's like the MVP of the WNBA now. I'm blanking on her last name, but Asia Wilson.
Asia Wilson. Yes.
But she's like, I'm 5'6", trying to hold my own against Asia because they just had no size.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, that was the one thing. Like they had. I mean, from time to time they'd get a taller player, and they wasn't just
6'1" would be like
exactly.
max.
Yeah, and they didn't have the skill that Strack and the Silva girl who won, I think, freshman of the year or freshman of the week rather.
Yeah.
That they have.
Can't wait to see how she develops. She's 6'7". I was watching the first game, one of the exhibition games. Anyway, our buddy, both friends of the show, Jeff Pecoro and Christy Thomas, were on the call, and Silva is 6'7", still adjusting to the American game, still adjusting living in America, like learning English, learning American basketball. And she's got that nice little fadeaway. She's got a lot of skill, a lot of touch. So when she gets the physicality and gets in the weight room, like her potential is, it's unlimited what she could possibly be once she gets coached up and, just kind of learns culturally on the court and off the court and gets used to everything. So I'm sure her head's probably spinning right now, but you let her kind of get settled in, and it's the sleeping giant, like Kenny said in his presser, and he's about to wake it up, man. He's about to wake it up.
Yeah, no question about it. They're just getting started for them.
Our Giants and Cowboys, man. When we play Thanksgiving Day.
Sorry, everyone has to. The Thanksgiving slate is awful.
Who's going to be tanking the most, y'all or us?
Us, hopefully. But I don't know. Shoot, I don't know. But that slate is horrible on Thanksgiving Day. I know Giants Cowboys is terrible. I want to say Chicago and Detroit. Like at least Detroit's good and they're a fun watch, but Chicago's terrible.
Yeah.
And then I think the night game is like Miami, Green Bay.
See, we need the Egg Bowl back.
Yeah, and you know what? You can Kentucky fans can watch their favorite coach John Calipari play Illinois that day too. Who they did win. They beat the Troy Trojans, but they were losing at halftime 27-25, 26. They end up winning 65-49. Yeah. Big Z did go 6 from 7 from 3 to save 6 from 7, to save their bacon. But Duke scored 19, Big Z scored 19, Boogie Flan scored 12, and then Janelle Davis 7. Brazil got hurt, so hope he's all right. Only had 4. Billy Richmond 4, and no one else scored a point. Carter knocked a 0.
Oh boy,
over 5 from the field. Yeah. So I think Kentucky would definitely sign up to be where they're at right now compared to
So are you officially done with Daniel Jones?
I think
for a while,
I don't think he's playing another snap the rest of the year. I think when they play Tampa Bay, not this Sunday because they're on bye, but next Sunday it'll either be DeVito or Locke. Probably, I don't know, one of the two, which would mean one of them will be starting on Thanksgiving Day against the Cowboys as well.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Yeah, they're going to do what the Broncos did with Russell Wilson. They're just going to protect themselves financially there.
Wow.
Yep.
Season's over. All right.
Season's over. 2-8. Season's way over. Season's been over. We're on to the draft.
Yep. Well, backup quarterback battle when y'all come.
Yeah.
Cooper Rush should be doing this thing for us.
Be thankful that's the game you get to watch over Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, boy. All right, man. We'll put a bow on another episode of Believe in Kentucky. And look, I failed to mention it, but we were streaming live on YouTube and Facebook and courtesy of the Believe Podcast Network. So subscribe and like, write a review. We've even had some Louisville fans go on to Apple Podcasts and write a review. A couple Tennessee fans have went on and written a review. So BBN, get hitting here. And if you like the podcast, just give us a little 5-star, give us a little review. We definitely appreciate it. Helps the podcast to grow. It helps other people to find it. And all that stuff on the algorithm, it just helps get our podcast out there. So we definitely appreciate it. Appreciate AG and his whirlwind of travel to the ATL and back, covering the Cats' victory over Duke for the Cats Pause. Got some good articles about the Cats storming back. Go to catspause.com and check out Aaron's work there. And come back to check us out next week. We'll be talking about the Murray State game, talking about the Lipscomb coming in.
Yep.
Kentucky women versus Louisville, all that kind of stuff. And whatever else happens between now and then, we'll talk about it here. Look, man, I know you're a Giants fan. I don't know how you was feeling when you saw your boy Saquon do the reverse hurdle for the Eagles. I mean, dude, sick.
But I will say, at least, if there's been one good thing in this awful Giants season, it's been the rookie class, and a big part of that is the running back Tyrone Tracy. So I will say I'm very, very excited about their I didn't hate not paying Saquon. I hated the fact that they got nothing for him and they didn't just trade him if they were going to move on. That was my whole big thing. And if you had traded him, maybe you trade him to Houston, for example, maybe he signs an extension there. Or you trade him to the Bears. It had to be the Eagles.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's what makes me angry and pisses me off as a Giants fan. But the fact they let him walk, I didn't hate it. I wish they had traded him. The fact that they left it up to the Eagles, less than ideal. But
exactly.
Whatever.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Well, we talk Kentucky and then we rant about our NFL teams from time to time, or we talk about
terrible
MLB or other sports too, but mainly UK. And sometimes it's guests, sometimes it's AG and myself. But just tune in and check us out, and we'll be back next week. So for Aaron Gershon, it's Vinny Hardy with another episode of Believe in Kentucky, and we'll see y'all back here next time. Y'all take care.